Hello everyone! In this video I would like us to look at a Python library which can help us generate a podcast based on a PDF or YouTube or some text or something else. So there are plenty of alternatives which we have. We are going to look at the library which is called Podcastfy.ai. You might have heard about Notebook LM from Google, and I think we see right now more and more libraries available, or not only libraries, but also products available for that particular task, especially for people who prefer to consume the content maybe in audio or like listening to a lot of podcasts. Let's look at, first of all, what options we have. And then we will look at the library Podcastfy AI as an example, and I will show you what I tried, what kind of results I got. Then we will look inside the library, how exactly it works, because this is actually the most interesting part. I mean, you can of course use Notebook LM for generating podcasts, but you don't really see how it is implemented inside. But in Podcastfy, which is quite well documented, very nice library, was very easy to run, unlike some other alternatives. So we will see what is inside happening in the code and how exactly it works. So Notebook LM, if you haven't heard about it, you can provide some information here, and then it will give you some different options what to do with that content. You can create FAQ, study guide, whatever it is, and you can generate the podcast. So here, for example, this is from some past research I was doing on some paper.
All right, so are you ready to dive into some seriously mind-bending AI research today?
Always.
Okay, good, because this stuff is, it's really something else. We're talking about these things called generative agents.
Yeah.
And basically, researchers have created this whole virtual world where these AI...
It's quite smooth, I must say. So it still hallucinates, which is expected. And I also didn't like that it actually uses a lot of unnecessary information. So I think it tries to put a lot of filler words, a lot of repetition, which might be actually something which other people prefer, but I actually prefer my content to be a bit more concise. They use at Google Soundstorm. So here there was a paper, I will try not to forget to link it below, but this is where they did the research and they created the approach
What's it?
Very nice conversation between the agents. So if you listen to this a bit.
Did you hear about Google's paper on Soundstorm?
No, I must have missed it. What's it about?
Well, it's a parallel decoder for efficient audio generation. So it can even be used to generate dialogues.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like...
So you can see that here they have several agents kind of talking to each other, which is quite interesting. I mean, behind it, it can be still, we can do the ChatGPT asking for two people talk to each other and we have a dialogue. But here, I think that this interaction, they are interrupting each other. It creates this feeling that they are talking to each other, some natural effect. So this is super cool. And of course, Google is more advanced. Then we got Open Notebook LM. I think they are pretty fresh. I saw the news a couple of months ago about them. So here you can drop the information. They will use, I think they use Llama here. Yeah, Llama. I didn't tweak anything here. I just added the URL for Cavalier, so for the doggy, and then generated, clicked on the button. Maybe there are some more, like for example, here there is advanced audio generation. I didn't try anything. I just tried the basic stuff. So this is how it sounds.
Hey there, dog lovers. Welcome to today's podcast. Never go.
Hi, Jane. I'm excited to talk about Cavalier King Charles Spaniels.
So you can see it's a bit less engaging and interesting, but admittedly, the way how I consume information when I am reading a lot of papers looks like this.
Host, hey there, dog lovers. Welcome to today's podcast. Dr. Smith, hi Jane. I'm next up.
So you can see maybe this particular podcast is a bit even like improvement to my default way to consume information. I don't know. Then we have Podfeed.
Okay, let's dive into this Apple press release about the new MacBook Pro. It's all about the M4.
But you can see the generation is pretty good. I think that they are also relying either on OpenAI or on Google voice generation. PDF to audio has the same one. I didn't try this one. AI, so 11 Labs can produce pretty nice voice generation, right? So some of the products, and this one I just found the link from the person who used 11 Labs.
Welcome back to Navigating Parenting, the podcast where we dive into the complexities of raising awesome, resilient kids. I'm your host, Sam.
And I'm Jamie. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that many...
Then I also tried TLDW because I found it really pretty cool because you can provide a lot of videos, but to be honest, I think I solved like 100 problems while trying to run this library, and with 101 I just gave up. So anyway, there are more options than what I showed you right now. There are plenty of new libraries. A lot of them look really cool and totally worth looking into or using if you want to try them out. But today I wanted to show you Podcastfy because this is the one I played the most. There are instructions on how to use it and some examples, how exactly what you can get. And generally you just install it as a library, whatever project you have, and then you can either use it with Python or with CLI. So let me show you. So this is multiple things which I tried. I used OpenAI only every run to generate the text and then to also create audio for that with OpenAI. Costed around maybe 10-20 cents. So I don't know, I ran it multiple times, but I don't think it was more than a couple of cups of coffee. I was using GPT-4 Turbo over here. And that meant that amount of information I could submit was 4,000 characters. I don't remember right now, but that depending on the model you're going to use, LLM model, to generate the script, you will have limitations of that model. This library can work also with local models, but I didn't try that. I just used OpenAI. They recommend for LLM to use the Google model, and apparently that one will give you a bit more space and will take a bit bigger context. But with GPT, I tried some wiki pages. For my experiments, it was kind of enough, that limited amount of information. So I asked it to create a conversation around Apache Kafka, the first topic which comes to my mind. And I added additional instructions over here. So I asked it to add your own knowledge. I kind of expected maybe the model, because the GPT really knows a lot about Apache Kafka. So I wouldn't mind that in addition to whatever I provide, it gives actually some extra knowledge. Then I asked it that the speakers should overlap their sentences frequently. I took this, I think, from some examples as an idea. I added that the language should be simple and direct, and to avoid unnecessary statements like those exaggerations and whatever. Then we provide the URL to the content. We provide the configuration, this particular one. So here I said that the style is informative and concise. Some podcast tagline, I think it helps to generate the proper content. Podcast name and dialogue structure. There is also creativity. This is more or less temperature. So I decided it's kind of like if I would put one here, it would be quite creative, but maybe if we are talking here about Apache Kafka, I still don't want it to be very creative. I wanted to use the facts. So I kept it 0.6. And then here's what I got.
Welcome to Data Streaming Best Practices, all about Apache Kafka. Today, we're diving deep into what makes Apache Kafka a key player in the world of stream processing.
Absolutely, and it's fascinating how Kafka, originally developed by LinkedIn, has evolved into a robust, high-throughput system under the Apache Software Foundation.
Right, and it's written in both Java and Scala.
So you can see it still was using like absolutely, there is not that many pauses between the sentences, between the speakers. It's not as natural as Notebook or as a Google Soundstorm or whatever it was called. But still, I think if the goal is consume information in this format, this was quite cool. And there is some space for instructing it how exactly I want the information to be presented. Then, because the creators mentioned that I can do, I can have the podcast in Spanish or like in other languages. There are tons of languages which are supported depending on, of course, the models we are using. So it's not the library probably can support everything. It just more or less if the OpenAI can generate me a good audio in Spanish, which I must admit it couldn't, or at least it has even stronger Spanish accent than I have in Spanish.
Bienvenidos a Podcastify. Hoy estamos explorando un tema fascinante, Apache Kafka. ¿Estás listo para sumergirte en este mundo de mensajes y datos en tiempo real?
So it sounds a bit weird, even though I must say still might be fine. So here another example which I tried is to create this. I actually took from the they had the paper and they have those different examples for debates, for language learning and so on. So I took it from there. So I put the conversation style educational, casual, and then use this list of engagement techniques. And put the roles. You can add the roles here. So one of the people will be language teacher and another one will be a curious student, and kept the creativity still kind of moderate. Provided some information on subjuntivo in Spanish, and then expected some stuff. And the content is good. It just the pronunciation is kind of still off, but this is not the library. This is the OpenAI.
Bienvenidos a Podcastify. Hoy vas a sumergirnos en el fascinante mundo del pretérito imperfecto del subjuntivo en español.
Es un tiempo verbal que puede parecer complicado.
Probably I will not be using it as my Spanish tutor yet. You never know. Then you can change the conversational style to be also humorous. And here I tried let's make something fun with Kafka. So I took some topic about choosing the replication and partition count, which is a complex thing, and then I generated that stuff.
Where the input and output data are stored in Kafka clusters.
So you're telling me it turns complex data processes into a walk in the park?
Exactly. It simplifies the process, but...
So it's kind of got a bit more humorous, not exactly something which makes me laugh, but maybe that's not the intention. Then we could create the long form content, and this is something when I was listening to the examples, I really enjoyed listening to the one about Benjamin Franklin. Where was it, Benjamin? I guess somewhere. Maybe was this one. The content there was very nice to consume. I actually really listened, I think, to the whole thing, and I found it to be engaging. Maybe it's both that the topic is a bit less scientific. It's still conversational, so it was about Benjamin Franklin autobiography and kind of all the adventures and how there is a story about that autobiography. And it was cool, and I think this long form, and we will see later what kind of prompts it's using, it tried to dive deeper into the story, and it was way more interesting. When I created, and I assume, admittedly, I messed up here, I didn't use the correct people, the correct roles, but it was still creating me. I provided it information about some Kafka consumers' advanced topics, like articles, and asked it to generate. It still generated me just 2 minutes. Probably my content, those 4 articles, were not really enough for longer content.
Ah, the dreaded failures. It's like preparing for surprise guests. Rebalanced listeners are crucial.
Anyway, it's kind of the same. Then I also tried. So let me show what didn't work before I show that particular example. So I tried to create a debate. Actually, here I didn't even put the debate here. But anyway, so I had this link to the Reddit conversation, who is better, Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings? But sadly, that one is I don't know, maybe there are like approaches, and please tell me also in the comments if you know how to do it. But here, Reddit, of course, kind of blocks it for me, so I couldn't really grab that information. So I'm like, okay, who cares? I can also copy-paste stuff for the example, and I generated the podcast based on that. I put the debate topic. It didn't really create a debate between people, even though here I added the recommended main presenter and opposing viewpoint. It still created a conversation about pros and cons.
Today we're diving into a classic debate, Lord of the Rings versus Harry Potter. Which epic takes the crown, or should we even compare them at all?
Ah, the age-old debate. Both sagas have massive fan bases and critically acclaimed adaptations, but they're fundamentally different beasts, aren't they?
Exactly.
Then what also didn't work is running the YouTube example. Here I took a YouTube. If you use it, if you try it, it's important that your link looks like this in this format. Otherwise, you will get another error. But that was easy to fix. But then it was telling me that it couldn't really get the transcript for the video, and subtitles are disabled for this video. However, and this is video by Mark, it definitely has subtitles. Let me show you. So this is the video.
I spent probably way...
So, and subtitles here are present. I wonder if the cookies, or kind of like YouTube can also try to prevent us to access that video unless I'm logged in, and because this is from inside of code spaces run, then probably I cannot access that video. So it's not a problem about subtitles, but rather that we cannot access the video. But I don't know. What I wanted to do is to look how exactly it all works. So the simplified flow looks like this. We provide some kind of a content, let's say it's a web page or PDF or YouTube video, and then the library will clean it up, prepare, and then it will ask a large language model to create a script, the dialogue for that particular content. And then it will take that script and give again to an AI model to generate audio based on it. So step by step, first one is a content parser. So in here we have a folder with content parser files depending on the type of content we have. So I was using mainly website extractor. So I mean, I didn't have to use it. It was used. I just provide URLs, and then it's like, okay, website, and it was looking into it. And it does clean up stuff. So here somewhere, clean the content. It will clean up all unnecessary parts of the web page. I think it's easier to see probably over here. So there is a part which kind of shows that we are ignoring the script style, navigation, footer, header, all those tags. So whenever, for example, I'm asking it to create a content based on the Wikipedia page, next what we are doing, we are generating that script. They're using LangChain here to make the calls to large language model, to combine the prompts and all the rest. And there are two different directions, or actually there are different varieties of things which they're using and selecting here, but we can select it between the long form content generator, and let me just zoom in a bit, maybe that will be a bit better to see, and I will close this one. So long form content generator we have, and this is for those longer podcasts, and there is a set of additional instructions here. And this is actually quite also interesting to see. So here they ask to provide extensive examples and real-world applications, include detailed analysis and multiple perspectives, use the yes and technique, incorporate relevant anecdotes, balance detailed explanations, maintain consistent voice through the extended discussion. Oh, this is interesting. I wonder if this is really a problem. And generate a long conversation. And here they ask to output max output tokens, if of course large language model listens to that. So this is for the long ones, and here they do some more complex stuff with this chunk size, and so on. And there are, yeah, I guess this is for the chunks, because they do have these prompts that they have the podcast conversations so far. So I guess this is for ongoing conversation. And they ask to continue the natural flow of conversation and follow up on very previous point question. So I guess they are doing this in multiple chunks and multiple steps. But for the short, so this is for the long podcasts. For the short ones, they have this standard content strategy. So this is a strategy for generating standard length content, so the short one for a couple of minutes. And by the way, the word strategy, because they're using it quite a lot, and they have even kind of a module or class for strategies. This is just the way how they prefer to align the content generation, validation, cleanup, and the rest. So like different options they are selecting, and especially it's quite different for the long term and for the long length content and for the short one. And I put a couple of console logs here, prints, to see what exactly we are getting in the prompt body. It was quite unreadable, so I copied it here. So we have instructions which we give to large language model on how to create the podcast script. We ask it to create it in a podcast conversation format and to follow some guidelines. We also give it like the output language. This is where the Spanish went. We ask it not to generate content on a random topic, to stay focused, saying that there can be a different format of input data, such as text or image or whatever. There are also a lot of like notes what to not to do. For example, here's avoid statements such as this image describes, or over here it is avoid statements such as today we are summarizing a fascinating conversation about. It gives some examples, like this is where we probably get this welcome to whatever podcast, today we are discussing whatever. And in general, it just gives a lot of this kind of information, and then adds the stuff which we included, which I wrote there, that I want the speakers to overlap their sentences frequently, language to keep simple and direct, and avoid unnecessary statements. So it adds all of that, and then this prompt is sent to the large language model together with all the parameters. So, and here what is included is whatever text I provided or whatever like PDF document you will have, or the rest. This is a transcript which is created for this particular conversation, and text-to-speech module will check what kind of provider you use for the audio generation, and then we'll use this provider to create those audio chunks. And this is, okay, going back a bit one step. So in content creator, we had this method generate question answers content. So this is where it generates those chunks of conversation. And if I understand it correctly, and I might not, but then those chunks are then used in this text-to-speech module, where we are generating chunk by chunk information, and this is how we're iterating between those people who talk, between those agents who talk to each other. And then it's all merged together, and we are getting the complete podcast file. There are tons of different parameters which you can use, and to understand, like you can look around here in the documentation, and documentation is pretty good. But here, for example, the REST API documentation, and you can find all different things you can influence when you are running this library. So all in all, really amazing library. Well written, easy to understand code, lots of customizations if you are going just to use it, not really like to read the code, so that you can kind of shape also what is exactly sent to the large language model, but also you can understand where all those prompts are coming from. Lots of other customizations to the flavor of conversation. What I think I'm liking here, and it's not about the library, but it's more that we have two agents who randomly talk to each other and try to evolve the conversation, like maybe random people meeting on the street. Versus when I'm listening to podcasts somewhere, I have a feeling that the podcast owner, like the person who maybe like directs the conversation, they always shape it very carefully so that the important questions are answered, the interesting topics are uncovered, and the podcast has the conversation has a direction. Versus here, I kind of feel it's just a lot of information, which can be fine for some purposes, but it's not still the level of the podcast quality which I expect. Let me know what you think, and would you listen to podcasts generated by AI, and what level of quality would you need to be able to enjoy that content or to be able to benefit from that content.